corruption. Now we have been discussing corruption for decades. Note, we have been discussing, but doing very little against it, or making any serious attempts to stop it. We even have a government agency, a public agency, which is designed to fight corruption. But nothing is changing. Nothing has changed. Indeed, corruption is getting worse. And I believe we're all very aware that corruption is not limited to any side of the political divide. It cuts right across. There are quite a number of people close to the William Samoei Ruto government who before the elections were living in Syokimau. Yeah, that's in the outskirts of Nairobi, close to a place called Athi River. Houses in this place are cheap. There's been a lot of Chinese construction. Yeah. Indeed, in the year 2015-2016, there were actually bed sitters for sale for under $1 million in this area. And so after Ruto came into power, the same CSs are purchasing homes in Karen. Now, financially speaking, it is a very long way from Syokimau to Karen. It is like Nairobi, London, Nimbali. Yeah. And these people achieved that milestone in months. So where did they get the money? Where did they get the money? Walishinda lottery? So many of them at the same time? Or where exactly did this money come from? Well, it's pretty obvious. It came from corruption. Let me give you another quick example. You know there's a saying, the devil is in the details. There is a politician called Oscar Sudi. Now review all the clips, review all the videos, review all the photographs of Bwana Sudi before the elections, or is it the selections, of August 9th, 2022. And then look at the photograph on your screens right now. The man has changed his dressing. So what has changed? What has changed? Huh? The man seems to have completely overturned his wardrobe, gotten a complete new wardrobe. From shoes, or shall I say from head to toe, unamwangalia, unaona pesa. Bottom line, in my opinion, it is a waste of time. It is a waste of breath. It is a waste of going to court. Yeah, purporting to fight corruption in Kenya. You will not win. You will not manage. Let me give you a quick brief story to illustrate what I'm saying. In 2003, the National Rainbow Coalition government, the most popularly elected government in the history of Kenya, and probably the only legally, genuinely elected government in our history, apart from the Independence Parliament, a government led by Mwai Kibaki, as it swept into power, the clarion call of that government was zero tolerance to corruption. Now, strangely enough, here zero tolerance to corruption is a phrase that has re-emerged, this time in the statement of Felix Koskei, head of the public service. In that statement, accompanied by a photograph where he's looking very serious. Anyway, as Mwai Kibaki swept into power, there is evidence to suggest that he seriously tried to deal with this corruption monster. Yeah. One of the first things the Mwai Kibaki administration did was to commission something called the Craw Report. I covered this extensively in my Kumekucha blog at the time. Now, those who thought corruption in Kenya was serious, were still shocked when they read the Craw Report. Somebody had even registered a company, called the Republic of Kenya. Of course, the implications of this is that a check written out to the Kenyan government, maybe even by donors, would go straight into this individual account. In the same Craw Report was a super fascinating scene, fit to appear in any Hollywood blockbuster movie, of President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi still in power. I believe this was sometime in 2002, before the elections later that year. Moi went to Switzerland with his favored son Gideon Moi, and they were moving from bank to bank in a small taxi with no security detail following them. They looked like just ordinary Africans in Switzerland. And they were driving from bank to bank to bank. What was their mission? They were changing the particulars, the details of the account holder from father to son. What? And these funds, of course, were corruption funds from Kenya. Taxpayers' money from Kenya, stashed away in Swiss accounts. It was also in the Craw Report that I first discovered, and remember I was a man always with an ear to the ground, that the way sugar was imported into the country, ships would dock offshore, speedboats would be sent, and casuals would be hired to offload the sackloads of sugar on the beach and load them onto lorries. No customs check, no duty, nothing. Just get sackloads of cheap sugar, from the beach, which are then sold to Kenyans at the usual price. What? And of course, the man who was in charge of this operation was one of the main financiers of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi's presidential campaigns, both in 1992 and 1997. I mean, the Craw Report was just sad, and that is an understatement. So fast forward to the present, nothing has changed. In fact, corruption today under the William Samoei Ruto government is on steroids. Or shall we say, it has gone viral. Corruption in Kenya today has gone viral. And that one is very clear for everybody to see. But there's nothing you and I can do. Utadu? What are you going to do? Now, this problem is more complex, more complicated by a few very clear, glaring facts. Now, in 2003, after Mwai Kibaki was completely defeated to fight this monster called corruption, one would have thought that the least that the Kibaki government would have done would have been to expose and take at least a few people to court, so that Kibaki has the legacy of he did something. He started the fight against corruption. He was the most serious president to do that. Nothing like that happened. And it is for a very simple reason, which still is very applicable today. Let's take the perfect example from the present. Now, since the William Samoei Ruto administration took over, they have been telling us that former President Uhuru Kenyatta went away with sackloads of cash. Hakuna pesa, Uhuru alimaliza pesa yote. Okay, fair enough. Now, the next logical thing they should have done is to prosecute all those who are involved in corruption under the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, starting with something called the SGR, quickly moving on to something called Eurobond, because these politicians have all the information. They know exactly where all that money went. So they should have started, if they were serious about fighting corruption, they should have started by prosecuting those ones. But you know why they didn't prosecute it? It's very simple. Let's just imagine a situation. Okay, let's take the SGR people to court. Okay, who are the chief suspects? Number 1, that is a UDA person. Number 2, UDA person. Number 3, Uhuru guy. Okay, let's focus on that one. Let's take him to court. But sir, tukipeleka huyu mtu kotini, you cannot delink him in evidence from suspect number 1 and suspect number 2. Both of them are in the mix. Okay, hiyo wachana naye. Let's move on to Eurobond. Eurobond wachana naye. Hiyo ni sisi. Then a naive small financial analyst in the group shoots back and says, Allah, how was UDA involved in the Eurobond? You people didn't have any power in government. We nyamaza. Then somebody else in the group says, remember Jacob Juma? Of course, this youngster hates history. He has no idea who that is. But you get my drift. Bottom line, this is a situation where a person who is filthy dirty, full of mud from head to toe, is trying to clean somebody else. How will that work? Even if you use water and omo, how are you going to make that person clean? Some of the dirt from yourself will fall on them. So that is the big tragedy in Kenya. But I have some good news for you. And I know most of you will not believe it. We are in the season of judgment. And I'm telling you, corruption is very high in the list of the sins of Kenya that must be judged. Why? Let me just give you one example, not two. One. Corruption steals donated medicine and medical equipment that was supposed to go to a small village dispensary. Okay? And as a result, children in that village who should not have died end up dead. Where does the blood of those children go to demand justice from Almighty God? On whose doorstep will it land? It will land on the doorstep of the cartels. Folks, you don't need to believe me. But one day, in the very, very near future, corruption in government in Kenya will be kwisha maneno. All for a better Kenya. My friends, all for a better Kenya. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.